Hello, friends. It's me. I have something special for you today. This is a story from from fanfiction.net. Oh, you know where this is going. But this is a special. This is by a user named Isaacs15. This is a parody of Fight Club starring Sonichu characters. This is Sonichu Club, ladies and gentlemen. Author's note: the racist and homophobic comments made in the following story do not represent the feelings of myself, the author. They are merely meant to convey the attitude of Kristen Weston Chandler, a rather racist and homophobic individual. I really honestly debated about reading this entirely in the Chris Chan voice, as this is supposed to be an inner monologue, but I figured that would get really annoying really fast, so I'm not going to do that. Also, we're doing all of this in one take, because I haven't read this yet, and this is the fanfiction thing. This is what I do. I just read them out. So here we go. People always ask me if I know Clyde Cash. Clyde had his gun buried deep in my mouth. It was a modified version of a 1984 Transformers toy. It had once been a highly sought-after character named Megatron, but using Crayola model magic and his knowledge of firearms, Clyde had converted it into a real pistol. I could feel the silencer holes Clyde had drilled into the barrel of the gun against my tongue. In 10 minutes, there's going to be a massive explosion that rocks history forever. 9 minutes. Clyde flashes me a grin. "Any last words?" he asks. It's hard to talk with a gun in your mouth. It just comes out as... He pulls the gun from my mouth, and I clarify, I can't think of anything. 8 minutes. 2 years earlier, I was at an internet lumberjack support group meeting. The elderly and slightly overweight man, Bob the Lumberjack, was hugging me, and my face perfectly fit between his man boobs. This is why all men should wear bras, like me. As he pulls away, he looks at me. "I ain't never had nobody stab me in the back like that," he said to me. It's okay, son, you can cry." That's not the beginning. Let's go back further. I started with my writer's block. For 6 weeks, I couldn't write Sonichu. My mind drew a complete blank. Went to my church counselor, Rocky Shoemaker. Told her that I was in pain. She told me if I wanted to know what pain was like, I should visit the game place Saturday night. That's when the Lumberjack support group meets. That's how I met the Lumberjack. My father, Bob Chandler. You know the controls in those plastic molding machines? He invented those. Yeah. Used to be quite a famous guy. But somewhere along the line, he lost it all. And then it happened. Sitting here, my face buried in my father's man boobs, I cried. It made me feel good to cry. And then I was able to write Sonichu again. I wrote a lot. R.L. Stine can't write this good. I went to a lot of support groups after that. I think my favorite was the Trollbusters Anonymous. But then one week it happened. At a lumberjack support group, she showed up. Megan Schroeder. Her lie reflected my lie. I wanted to pull her to the side and say, "Megan, you damn dirty troll, you're not a lumberjack, you liar!" She didn't just show up to the lumberjack support group. She was at Trollbusters Anonymous, Virgins with Rage, even Tomboys and Tomgirls of Virginia. I had enough. I was at Teachers Anonymous. Mary Lee Walsh was speaking. Hate her. She looked like a dirty old witch with a devil's tail. Well, to me, anyway. She started giving her speech. She was quitting teaching soon. "Well, I'm still here," she said, "but I don't know for how long. That's as much certainty as anyone can give me. I can't wait for this lady to stop teaching. When I was in school, she crushed my heart to level 0. Then she started talking again. I'm in a pretty lonely place," she said. "No one will have sex with me. I'm so close to the end, and all I want to do is get laid for the last time." Even though I, a virgin with rage, would never, ever sleep with that witch, Slaweel Ryam. I wanted to yell at her for taunting me with sex when I looked over and saw her. Schroeder. I couldn't cry. Megan the tourist. Megan. Her name felt like 1,000 Mary Lee Walshes all tearing at me and never lose my virginity. I hate her. I hate her so much. Bob, my lumberjack father, was sobbing on my shoulder, and I saw her again. Schroeder. I pulled her aside.
I say, you're a liar. You ain't no lumberjack.
She looked back at me blankly.
I've seen you with all the groups.
I watched you, she replied. I saw you rehearsing this speech. She had me. We talked for a little while before agreeing to split up the nights when we went to groups. I had Lumberjack, she had Trollbusters. I had Virgins with Rage, she had Tomboys and Tomgirls of Virginia. You wake up at Golden Corral. You wake up at McDonald's, Burger King, the game place, lose an hour, gain an hour. This is your life, and it's ending 1 minute at a time. You wake up at church. If you wake up at a different time in a different place, could you wake up as a different person? No one likes to sit next to me at the game place a second time. They say it's because of my attitude and my smell. I call them single-serving friends, because I only see them once. That's how I met Clyde Cash. I woke up to find his orangey tanned skin and spiked hair. He was reading the instructions to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. He looked over at me and grinned. You know why you have to sacrifice a monster before you can summon a monster of greater strength? I blinked and responded,
because the stronger monster needs to both sacrifice to be summoned?
Clyde shook his head. Because it delays your turn. It's a time-wasting move. My mind was blown.
My name's Christopher Chandler. From Rookerville, Virginia. I'm currently a 27-year-old. I'm looking for a boyfriend for a girl.
Clyde nodded. Clyde Cash. What do you do for a living, Chris?
I'm currently unemployed. What about you?
Clyde reached down to his custom Lego PSP carrying case.
Hey, we have the same case.
Clyde grinned and opened his case. Medallions. He pulled out a business card with his address written on it and handed it to me. I make and sell Sonichu medallions. And with that, he stood up and left the game place. How I came to live with Clyde Cash is a really odd story. I was leaving the game place after meeting him when I was stopped by a jerk-op at the door. He said he had to confiscate my custom Lego PSP carrying case. He said modern bombs don't tick and that my carrying case had been vibrating. I hate jerk-ops. I was lucky, though, because I'd been held up at the game place. I missed what happened at my home. You see, I came home late from the game place to find that all of my things had been broken and destroyed lying in the front yard. My home at 14 Branch Lane Court had been blown into oblivion. Apparently, my PS3 had been sitting too close to the PSP, and there's some kind of wireless signal interference from the 3DS and the Vita that had caused a chain reaction leading to my home's destruction. I made my way to a payphone. First I thought of calling Megan, but in the end I called Clyde. He told me to meet him at a bar. I don't drink beer, so I just talked to him, while he did. We talked for a while before we decided to leave. As I made my way out, he stopped me and said, "Why don't you just ask, man?" I was confused. You got no place to stay. Just ask.
Would it inconvenience you?
Would it inconvenience you to ask?
Well, can I stay with you?
Yeah, come on. We were halfway out of the parking lot when he stopped. I want you to say the most racist thing you possibly can.
What?
I want you to say the most racist thing you possibly can. Now, let me tell you something about Clyde Cash. He was a troll extraordinaire. He used to go on 4chan and post dubs all day long. And all night. Once he had a job at a Wendy's, but he got fired for making scary duck noises at a little girl. He used to work in an adult movie theater. He'd splice children's cartoons into the hardcore pornography. Not more than a frame. So you wouldn't know you saw it. But you saw it. In the middle of the third reel, when the hot blonde is taking it up the ass from the guy in the Shrek suit, that's when you see Clyde's contribution to the film. Cuddly animated bear with a celebrity voice actor. Which brings us back to the moment. I want you to say the most racist thing you possibly can. I just stared at him in disbelief.
Why?
Clyde laughed. I've never been arrested for hate speech. Have you?
Well, no. Well, there you go.
I thought for a moment, trying to think of the most vile, repulsive thing I could think of.
Well, Mr. Centenero, because you have no money. Look at you, you orange-skinned freak. I can't even stand to look at you. Look at all those freckles.
I took a moment to think before adding,
You're a freak. Ha ha ha. I scoff at you, you ugly freak.
and Clyde laughed. We hurled insults at each other all night, calling each other's names like homo and other things before we finally made it back to Clyde's place on Paper Street. Clyde's house was magnificent. It was a mansion beyond belief. Everything was really fancy. He kept referring to it as a dump, but in comparison to my house, it was gorgeous. Even though the ceiling leaked, power went in and out every night, the fact that there were no dead cats or bed bugs skyrocketed the housing value to me. In fact, I got the best night's sleep I've ever had in years. Everyone knew what it was. We just gave it a name. Sonichu Club. We meet in the basements of the game place. I listened to Clyde speak. First rule of Sonichu Club. Right? I can't say the rules of Sonichu Club because they are very offensive. I'm sorry. We're gonna have to skip that part. The phone rang. I got it.
This is Chris Chandler, Rockville, Virginia. I'm currently...
You haven't been going to the meetings. It was Megan.
Oh, we have different nights.
I cheated. You weren't at Lumberjack's awareness.
I found a new group.
I said, thinking of some name. Oh, can I join?
No, they're not girls allowed.
If you don't let me join, I'll stop reading Sonichu. That hit hard. But I was adamant. I needed Sonichu Club. And Megan Schroeder was not going to screw this up for me.
I said no.
Well, I'm not going to read Sonichu anymore. But I don't think this is a serious no more reading thing. I think this is more of a cry up for help kind of thing. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. The stress was starting to get to me, I must admit. Want to stay on the line and hear me stop reading? I placed the phone down on the table without answering. Strange dreams. I dreamed Clyde was fucking Megan. Really just going at it. Must have been amazing. For a virgin with rage like myself, a dream was enough to give me a pair of dirty crapped briefs. Lord, I'm trying to keep a straight face. When I woke up, I made my way to the kitchen. Clyde's door was shut. It was never shut. I was eating my officially licensed Sonichu O's cereal for breakfast. Heard someone enter the room.
Why is the door shut, huh?
I turned around and found myself face to face with Megan. What the hell was she doing here? Some night I had last night, huh? She said, winking at me.
Well, what are you doing in my house?
What?
In my house. What are you doing in my house?
Furiously, she grabbed her purse and left. And that's when Clyde entered the room. Stuck it to her like Sally Stitwell, he said, pulling a rubber glove off his hand.
Clyde, how did you...
But I knew the answer before I even asked the question. Clyde had come home late from work and found the phone lying on the hook. He listened for a minute before heading off to Megan's house. Megan answered the door wearing a black slip. You got here fast, she said, eyeing Clyde. Clyde looked over at her dresser. Framed picture of... It's some pretty bad stuff. A framed picture of Hitler, a dildo with a swastika carved into the tip. Wow. Megan looked at Clyde. It's of no harm to you, she said. Clyde lowered his sunglasses. She winked at him. Shit. Sirens. One of my neighbors must have called the cops after I said I'd stop reading Sonichu. Come on, then. I'll get you back to my place. And they did it all night. Just fucking and sucking. He had rubbed his duck in her china and given her a dose of his navy. Lord. His comeuppance... As I, as a virgin with rage, cried. It felt good to cry. Almost as good as that first meeting with Bob the lumberjack with bitch tits. I almost got all the way through this without laughing. After Clyde finished telling me, he told me not to talk about him with her. Ever. I thought it was strange, but okay. Clyde saw a lot of Megan after that. It seemed like I couldn't go 2 minutes without hearing the muffled screams of Megan as Clyde rammed his duck into her tom-tom. Lord. I wonder what Clyde's duck looks like. Mine's bent. Resembles a boomerang. Ugh, I need to stop thinking about pickles. Dear Sailor Moon, please keep me straight. This is really good. I could hear Clyde going at it with Megan through the walls when the phone rang. It was Officer Baggett, the jerk-op in charge of the investigation into my home's explosion. Baggett wanted to talk to me about my PS3. Apparently, there was a dynamite hidden inside of it. Something to do with my 3DS being converted into a remote detonator. I think he thinks I'm an arsonist. Tonight, Clyde taught me an invaluable lesson. It was around 5 p.m. Clyde was giving me an intense look after Megan left. I asked him what we were doing. Tonight, he said, we're making medallions. And to make medallions, we need Crayola fucking model magic. We broke into the Target late that night. It's the same Target I'd been banned from months before. Sold dozens of packages of Crayola model magic and acrylic paints. First step to making medallions to sculpt model magic into a Sonichu shape. Then we paint it with the acrylic paint. And then we pop a keyring into the top. I nodded, enjoying this lesson. Did you know that if you mix Crayola model magic with gasoline, it becomes extremely flammable? I shook my head. I didn't know that. Yeah, with enough Crayola model magic, you could destroy the world. Clyde walked over to the acrylic paints. You know what this is? I shook my head. That's yellow paint. Acrylic. He took out a brush and squirted a glob of paint onto the tip. He grabbed my hand forcefully and painted a big yellow smear onto it. I could feel the paint drying as I tried to shake it off myself, but Clyde held me in place. Don't struggle. Face it.
But my hands could be all yellow.
It's good. Go with it. I tried to pull free, but his grip was too much. He pulled out white and flesh-colored paints and proceeded to finish painting on my hand. When he was done, the image of Sonichu smiled back at me. And I yelled at him,
Clyde, you don't know how this feels.
He held up his hand. On it was painted a Sonichu, identical to mine. Clyde sold his medallions to Target for $20 a medallion. God knows what they sold them for. It was beautiful. He was selling them their own Crayola model magic back to them for $20 a pop. I was at the bombed-out remains of my former home, drawing Sonichu, when she approached me. Barb, my mother.
The first rule of Sonichu Club is... What is this?
I must have left it in the copier. Barb spoke again.
Pretend you're me. Pretend you make a decision. You find this. What do?
I knew what to say in an instant.
Well, I gotta tell you, I've been very careful to who you talk to about that. The person who wrote that is dangerous.
And she backed away. I continued.
And whoever wrote this might be his own free bitch. Maybe he got a special attack, a curse of some kind. A curse-hamiha, if you will. Now what if this Tom girl were to crack and stroll around cursing everybody you know and care about? Someone real close to you.
Clyde's words coming out of my mouth.
Or maybe,
I said,
you shouldn't bother me with every piece of paper that has my signature on it at the bottom.
How self-epic. I'm a badass. I got a phone call from Megan. She asked me to meet her at her apartment. All she wanted to tell me was that there were several auctions on eBay for Nazi memorabilia and Sailor Moon videotapes. She wanted me to order them all for her. I don't see why she couldn't just make her own account. As I stepped out the door from Megan's apartment, I heard a voice, a familiar voice.
Christian,
it called. Shit, it was Bob. He looked good. I asked him if he'd continued going to the support group. He responded with an unexpected reply.
I have a new therapy group. First rule is...
I still can't say that.
Second rule is... I cut him off. Bob, I'm a member.
He chuckled.
Oh my. I go on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I go on Thursdays and Fridays.
And we hugged.
Hey, you heard of the guy who started this thing? They say he shits his pants on a regular basis. Has a unusual fascination with his initials. Always appears unwashed, dirty. I knew he must be talking about me, and I smiled. Yeah, I know him. Oh, well, how you know about the Clyde Cash?
I had a great exchange of insults with Bob at that night's Sonichu club. He told me he'd cut me down like he cut down the internet. I told him he was going down like a dirty clown. It's a little bit of what I like to call random access humor. Everything's great. Sonichu Club. This was mine and Clyde's gift. Clyde was giving a speech about squandered potential. He called out to all of us. We are an entire generation of internet slackers, living without parents till we're 30. We have no Great War, no Great Depression. Clyde was really getting into the swing of things. Internet flame wars. This is our war. Our lives are our depression. He stopped and let that sink in. First rule of Sonichu Club is whoa, whoa, whoa! The man descended the steps into the game place's basement. What's going on down here? He asked. Excuse me, said Clyde. Not a member. What are you doing here? This man was taken back. Sign on the front door says Michael Snyder's game place. He brushed some dust from his collar. I'm Michael fucking Snyder. He brushed his hair back nonchalantly. Who said you could use my basement? We have a deal worked out with your daughter, started Clyde, but Snyder cut him off. My daughter is at home sleeping. How much money she get for this? Clyde laughed. None. How much you charging these guys to be here? Free. Snyder was pissed. He lunged at Clyde, taking him down in one shot. He began wailing on Clyde, with Clyde just laughing it off. I like you, Snyder, he said between punches. Shame you can't join us because of your... I can't say that. Snyder stood up, leaving Clyde a broken, pummeled mess. Blood oozed from Clyde's nose. One of his teeth fell out. As Snyder started to leave, Clyde jumped him. You don't know where I've been, Mikey! He yelled, spraying blood into Snyder's face. You don't know where I've been! Snyder fell onto the floor. Okay, Jesus, you can use the basement. Go ahead! Clyde laughed as Snyder left. We never saw him again. Clyde had homework for us that week. We were to pick a total stranger with a different belief structure or skin color than ourselves and hurl horrible, hateful remarks at them. I chose the lady who worked at Burger King. I told her she was... I can't say that. Got arrested by Officer Baggett for hate speech. After a short time in jail, I returned home to Paper Street with Clyde. With my monthly tugboat, we had government funding, and the insurance check for my blown-up house left us enough money to travel wherever we wanted. That's how we began holding Sonichu Club every night of the week. Clyde began giving out homework assignments every night. Sonichu clubs began popping up everywhere. There's one in New York, Louisiana, one in LA. I could have never dreamed of how far my little group of things, words I can't say, would spread. One day I woke up because of the doorbell. Looked out the window to see Clyde talking to a guy in a white sheet. You're too young, he said. It's not going to happen. You can't train here. The guy stood there, adamant. Clyde came back inside.
What was that all about?
I asked him. He looked me up and down. We're going to get some people here. They look too young? Tell them they're too young. Fat? Too fat. Old? Too old. I don't. If they stand there for 20 minutes, let them in. Then we began. After 20 minutes, the youth was allowed to come in, and Clyde began showing him how to make medallions. The next man arrived, Bob Chandler, the lumberjack. Clyde eyed him. Too old, fat man. Bob started to leave, but I pulled him back. I could make an exception for my own father. Next man to show up was remarkable. He wore a brown and tan striped shirt similar to my own blue and red one, and he wore glasses, much like my own. He had a pillow stuffed under his shirt to simulate weight gain.
"Liquid Chris," he said, "reporting for duty."
Sonichu Club was a new force to be reckoned with. Who you are in Sonichu Club is not who you were everywhere else. In Sonichu Club, you are not your job. You are not how many comics you've drawn. You are not the striped blue and red shirts that you wear. You are not the monthly tugboat you get from the government. You are not your Crayola fucking model magic. You are the all-singing, all-dancing electric hedgehogs of the world. I got home late in the evening. My house was crowded with people. The miscreants, Clyde called them. As I entered the house, I saw several miscreants making medallions. Clyde called me into the kitchen, gave me a few cans of beer. He said to hand them out to the miscreants, who were sitting in front of the TV. I went to see Liquid Chris and Bob Chandler talking as they watched television. I entered and they hushed up. "What's going on?" I asked them as I tossed Liquid Chris a can of beer. As if on cue, Liquid pipes up, "A first rule of Project Miscreant is no asking questions." He had me there. "Shh," said Bob. "We're on." The image of the television set was that of a local reporter, Jason Kendrick Howell. "Tragedy in Charlottesville," he announced, as he gestured to the blown-out face of the Nintendo of Virginia building. Several windows had fires burning in them, and when you looked at it the right way, the burning windows formed a picture of Sonichu. I turned to the miscreants who were laughing their heads off. "What did you do?" I asked, shocked. "Did you do this?" "Sir," said Liquid Chris, "the first rule of Project Miscreant is that you did not ask questions." I was furious enough, but then this happened. "Officer Baggett," it was Howell on TV again. "Tell us what your investigations have found." "Well," said Baggett, "we have found a link between these recent burnings and some underground group." "Shit," said Clyde. "What?" Clyde was not happy with Officer Baggett. "Ready to go." We left the house and headed off for Officer Baggett's home. Baggett was watching TV when the miscreants burst in on him. We tied him down and Clyde produced a rubber band. For my pop, Bob pulled Baggett's pants down and wrapped the rubber band tight around his balls. His, pickle was hanging out for everyone to see. Dear Sailor Moon, please keep me straight. I was so concentrated on not being gay that I almost missed Clyde's request. "The knife! Chris! The knife!" I pulled out my pocket knife. I used it to threaten trolls on the internet sometimes. I handed it to Liquid, who held it just under Baggett's, balls. "You hear me, Marcus?" This came from Clyde. "Marcus Baggett?" Baggett took his eyes off of his privates and looked up at Clyde. "We are very important to you. We cook your food. We throw away your trash. We clean up after your pets. We are the all-singing, all-dancing electric hedgehogs of the world. And I want you to stop investigating these groups. You do, and you'll never hear from us again. You don't, and we take your balls." Marcus nodded in understanding. Liquid flicked the knife and cut the rubber band, freeing Baggett's testicles. And with that, we left. "Nice, Chris. Great going." This was Clyde speaking to Liquid Chris. He was congratulating Liquid on his performance during the Baggett episode. We just left Baggett's house and heading back towards the game place for Sonichu Club. How could Clyde replace me like this? What did Liquid have that I didn't? Maybe it was because he could play a real guitar and not just Guitar Hero. I was paired up with Liquid for insults exchange at Sonichu Club. I was mad. I wanted to break him dead. I couldn't hold back. I felt myself saying it before I even knew what I was saying. Liquid's nose was broken, his glasses smashed, his left eye puffy, his right eye black. His jaw was also broken, his hair was a mess, because it just felt like destroying something beautiful. I felt great after hurting him. I went home from the game place and crashed into slumber. In my sleep, I could hear Clyde's voice. He was talking about the future. In Clyde's future, The only comic books being published were Sonichu comics. He saw me living rich on a mountain of Sonichu cash, rolling in dosh. When I awoke, I was shocked to see that several weeks had passed. The house at Paper Street was crowded with miscreants, each making medallions and shipping them out. I made my way out of the house. I had to find Clyde. I had no luck finding Clyde, though. He's nowhere to be found. I did find several receipts for plane tickets and Clyde's dresser. I visited where he visited. Maybe I'd find him. Everywhere Clyde went, I was one step behind him. Every GameStop, every Golden Corral, every McDonald's within walking distance of an airport, there was a vibration in the air. The floor still damp from last night's name-calling. Sonichu Club was here. St. Louis, I found Clyde. It's good to see you again, sir. As the cashier at V-Stock, his employee name tag read Jake. Again? I was dumbfounded. I'd never been here in my life.
When was the last time I was in here?
Jake looked at me like I was crazy. Last week, sir. Everything's going according to plan.
Are you sure about that?
Positive. You were standing right there, going over the details of Project Miscreant. I leaned forward, starting to sweat.
Who do you think I am?
Clyde Cash, sir. I queasily made my way back to my hotel room. I picked up a phone and dialed Megan. Go for Schroeder.
Megan, it's me.
She paused. Oh, she said. She was not happy to hear my voice.
Megan, we ever had sex?
Are you asking me whether what we've done would be considered fucking or making love?
Yeah, no, I mean, have we ever done it?
A long sigh emanated from her end. You love me, you hate me, you're filthy rich, you're dirt poor. Clyde, I don't know.
What did you just call me?
Clyde Cash, she screamed. Your name is Clyde Cash. Are you happy? I dropped the phone. Damn it, Chris, you talked about me. I turned around and found myself face to face with Clyde Cash.
Clyde, what? Why does everyone think I'm you?
Chris, why would anyone confuse us? He had me. We look completely different. I am you.
But that's impossible. The house on Paper Street.
Rented in your name.
But you have a job.
Wrong. You have 3 jobs because you never write. And incidentally, you were fired from all 3.
If it's a job as a volunteer Pokemon gym leader?
Clyde nodded. Changeover isn't complete. Not yet. Clyde adjusted his red headband. See, sometimes you're still you. Sometimes you're me. Sometimes you're you watching me. I fell to my knees in shock. I did a dramatic glasses removal. Now it's time for you to go to bed. It's called a changeover. Movie keeps going. The audience doesn't even know the difference. I made it back to Virginia. I don't know how, but I did. What happened next, I won't go into much detail about. Just that the miscreants tried to cut off my pickle. I found out the truth behind Project Miscreant. Clyde is planning to use his medallions to blow up DC Comics headquarters, Marvel headquarters, Dark Horse, Image Comics. The only comics left will be from a small-time indie publisher, bringing Sonichu to public attention. In a way, it's almost beautiful. Which brings me back to... Clyde had his gun buried deep in my mouth. It's a modified version of a 1984 Transformers toy. It had once been a highly sought-after character named Megatron, but using Crayola model magic and his knowledge of firearms, Clyde had converted it into a real pistol. I could feel the silencer holes Clyde had drilled into the barrel of the gun with my tongue. 10 minutes, there's going to be a massive explosion that rocks history forever. 9 minutes. Clyde flashes me a grin. Any last words? It's still hard to talk with a gun in your mouth. It comes out as... He pulls the gun from my mouth to clarify.
I still can't think of anything.
He laughs. Flashback humor. Cute. We're in a building in a city somewhere across the street from DC headquarters. I see Clyde's medallion delivery truck parked outside. 7 minutes. I've got to get myself out of this. I've got to... Clyde's holding a gun. He's pointing at my head. Clyde isn't real. I have the gun. I look down. I'm alone in the room. I'm holding the Megatron pistol. I look out the window. 6 minutes. Look down at the gun and I hear Clyde in my head. He's telling me I'll never be rid of him. 5 minutes. I put the gun to my temple. 4 minutes. I pull the trigger. It's a toy. A transformer with Crayola model magic on it. Couldn't harm a fly. I hear a voice. Clyde? It's Megan. I have no idea how she found me. She runs over to my side and I look at her. Are you okay? Honestly, don't even know at this point.
Megan, you met me at a very strange saga in my life.
DC Comics erupts in flames. Marvel crumbles. Then Dark Horse, Image, Kaboom, Paper Cuts. A small up-and-coming indie publisher. There's nothing now but Sonichu. Sonichu is love. Sonichu is life. That was fucking beautiful. Okay. This was posted, wow, a long time ago, 2013. But Isaacs15, if you're out there somewhere and you somehow find this, thank you so much for writing this. This is amazing. I did have to censor some stuff because YouTube, but this was incredible. I'm I can't believe, like, oh, it's so well done. This had to be, like, super hard to write. This had to be, like, so deeply researched and just, it's super good. It's so good. And I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And this story, like I've been doing, will probably have it should have a link in the description below. It currently has no reviews or comments. No, it has one. I'm sorry, it has one. But I think I should leave one too, if I can. I don't know that I can. Either way, it's fantastic if you want to read it for yourself. If you want to support this channel so we can keep doing this, check out my Ko-Fi and my merch store. And I have a subreddit if you'd like to send me stories like this or others. So, thank you all for being here. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye, everybody.